Dementia, as I've said repeatedly, is a whole of life course disease. It is not just something in the last years of life. The role of women, which Jacqueline will talk about, which has been one of the most profound aspects, it disproportionately impacts women, not just as a disease, but also with regards to the care burden associated with what it is, and the economic cost of that is 81 billion. The power of community engagement and awareness I've spoken about, but creativity and storytelling are such an important aspect of how to support memory and reminiscence, and Mansour will talk about how we can actually leverage that with technology. The opportunities supported by technology, AI. The importance of design, both in terms of place to make age-friendly environments, but also the designs of the home is a really important issue. And some other organizations I'm part of, that is one of the key things that we're promoting, is how to enable people to live at home for as long as possible and learn. Building capacity and capability, and when Carmel gets here, we'll talk a little bit more about the Train the Trainer program that was run, that's in the report. And we need a financial model. That's not to say we also don't need workforce as we build that capability and how we actually support this because of the financial impost. And Mansour will also talk about workforce. So I'm going to turn to our panel and ask, who would like to go first? You go first. Jacqueline's going to talk about the role of women and also the first-hand experience of being a carer for her loved ones. And actually, everybody on the panel has a lived experience of somebody within their family with dementia as well, as I'm sure many in the audience do as well. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Hi, morning. Is it on? Yeah, already.
Hello, hello, hello.
Is this up? Yeah, thank you. Talofa, everyone. I'm Jacqueline from Malaysia. I'm talking about women and its role. And as just Linda mentioned, can you hear me? Yeah. As Sonia. Okay. Talofa again. Again, as Linda mentioned, I'm here to talk about women and their role. Not only does dementia affects everyone, and Linda mentioned it's 57 million people, but it's the people around those that is having dementia is also being affected, like family members, especially care partners and women, girls, yeah? Out of the 57 million people who are affected, about 600 million women and girls are also impacted. Why? Okay. They become carers whether they want to or not, or whether they are skilled in caring. But the fact that it's a societal problem whereby we are just de facto carers, right? And this figure encompasses over 76% of total unpaid carers, yeah? And this is a huge figure because it will also impact family income and so on and so forth. And dementia is not a disease that is like a year or two. It can be 5 to even 12, 20 years it takes, yeah? Now, out of the 76% of women, they are what we call informal carers, to put it nicely, but not nicely, they are not paid, okay? Now, out of this 76% who are not paid, if we work out their wage at the lowest rate, okay, 8-hour day, okay, annually you're looking at 11 trillion US dollars. So when you hear about 7 trillion yesterday on subsidies of climate finance, talk about women and unpaid care, okay? This is a figure. Now, 76%, I'm one of that statistic, right? So it does not matter whether you are de facto or whether you are running your own business or whether you are working, not working. The duty just falls on you, especially in Southeast Asia and perhaps even the Pacific, yeah? Right, and when we look at dementia, there's a lot of misunderstanding about it from the public point of view because they think that dementia is something that is aging and you do that. But no, it's not a natural process. It's something it's a brain disease. The thing is and I look at Richard, when you say about disability, dementia is a disability, but it's an invisible one. And when you act strange, like some people say, they think you are odd, yeah? And in some countries, especially in Southeast Asia as well as Pacific, and especially in Africa, you tend to look at it as, it's witchcraft, something got into her and let's exorcise it out. And in some countries, especially for women, when they are widowed, they are alone, they have a property. This happens a lot because of witchcraft. Their properties are seized by family and things like that, thinking that she's possessed, and so on and so forth. Also, all this abuse, neglect do happen. So when we talk about 11 trillion in unpaid work, okay, dementia is just not a disease that is a financial burden to the family, to the country, because there's no real healthcare or social care support from the governments when you hear numbers of national plan that's available. The fact is that in economic cost for the world, dementia is actually a $1 trillion burden, to all economies. By 2030, you're looking at 23 trillion, okay? But by 2050, you're looking at up to $48 trillion, okay? So this is a loss of economy on the country as well, because not only is the person having dementia, can't go to work, having stigma and discrimination, the person caring for him, a care partner, a woman, a girl, is also not being able to be working because they have to care. Yeah? So you're actually taking labor, skilled labor, from a workforce that needs them into caring where they're not equipped or prepared to care for. Yeah? So there are numbers, and I wouldn't like to work on that because it does sound scary, but I'm optimistic. Yeah? So that's why I'm here today. That's a postcard where we have a QR code, scanned it, read about it. We're happy to answer some questions. We also have some printed reports, but the one online would be the full content where we continue to keep adding resources into it. Yeah, I just want to say that it does sound scary, but just 3 do you knows that I want to present and ask. Did you know that by 2030 there'll be more people over 60, than children who are under 5? Yes, that's very near, down the road. So when you talk about caring for people with dementia, what about caring for younger children? Now in 2050, not too long ago, we're looking at 1.9 billion people needing care. By 2030, you're looking at 2.3 billion. Okay, so now and we're talking about, did you know that children that are 5 today can live up to 105? Okay, now if we're taking, aging is the best known factor for having dementia. So if you're going to be 105, you're not going to be healthy. Okay, there'll be a lot of people having dementia walking about. Do you want that to happen? Or do we want to prepare today? Okay. So actually, we're very blessed because of longevity, and science and geriscience, medicine, yeah. But then again, think about it. Are we not if we're having dementia? Okay. And if you're 105, you're looking at children 5-year-old today, living to the 22nd century. Aren't we blessed? We're living among them. So should we not invest in them now? Okay, we're older, we're done, okay, so we have to manage it. But for our children and for our youth, do we not have to prepare now to ensure that they live healthy lives, okay, be able to be prosperous, and be able to dance and kick about like us, and still contribute back to the community, all right? So I rest this now and pass this to Dee. Any questions, happy to answer. But do read the report, there's a lot there, and I can go on and on. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Dee.
You on? Okay. Thanks,
Good
Dean.
morning, everyone. Thank you. Good morning. You know, as Jacqueline said, it can be scary, but do you know that one of the greatest things that combats fear is knowledge? Knowledge and information is one of the greatest things to battle. And so what do we see emerging as one of the greatest needs with this is the need for training. And this is training all across the board. So we think of training of our healthcare workers, of our social workers. We think of training for our family caregivers who are in the home delivering care on a day-to-day basis. Some of them became caregivers unplanned, right? And so they have to fill that gap. There are also needs in the general population for persons to be sensitized, to be made aware, and so that persons with dementia are not looked on as other than, and they are not looked on, you know, as some weird phenomenon of nature, or even a natural consequence of aging, because it is not a natural consequence of aging. And in many of our societies, there's a notion, oh, he or she has become old and they have gotten senile, as if it's part and parcel of the aging process, and it is not. And so just to have people be aware of the fact that dementia is a chronic non-communicable disease. As we learn more, we learn about prevention and so on, but getting people to be aware of the fact that it is a part of a disease process, understanding how to manage symptoms, and just training in general to have caregivers feel more capable as they deliver care in the home. If you were, I was saying maybe to Jacqueline yesterday, if you were to announce in Jamaica, where I'm from, that there is going to be a session on dementia for family caregivers and the home, you would be oversubscribed. There is such a great need for the information that people are longing for it. And many persons, if you study medicine or anything, the health sciences, you will have introduction to it. But for other persons in other fields and in the community, the information is not readily available. And so that is one of the greatest needs that we have to fill. And so academic institutions, NGOs, Common Age is doing a lot of work in that area just to fill that gap. And so you will see some information on that in the report, on the overview in Jamaica, some of the training programs that the University of the West Indies has developed, and some of the short courses that we do to the community, and also what Common Age does and pilots all throughout the Commonwealth. So do take some information from that. And there is a lot of responsibility on the individual, but I think collectively, there is a saying, you know, if something is everybody's business, then it becomes nobody's business. So somebody has to take the coordinating role, and this is where we call upon our governments to prioritize dementia. When it's prioritized, then there will be efforts targeting lots of different areas, including training, including caregiving, including medicines, and, you know, so that is a kind of collective approach that we want to see.
Thank you so much. And Carmel, lovely to have you. Are you able to talk a little bit about Train the Trainer, and then we'll come to Mansour with regards to technology and AI.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. My apologies for being late. I had quite an exciting drive from Mulifuana to get here this morning, trying to cut through the traffic. So I want to give a little bit of information about the African context. My colleagues have shared some of the staggering statistics around dementia. Africa as a continent has the largest aging population. And as Jacqueline said, you know, by 2050, we're going to have 139 million people with dementia. So that has implications on various levels. One of the areas that it's going to affect is the fact that there's going to be that many more people that are in need of care. So in South Africa, or in Africa, an organization called the Association for the Aged in Durban, together with Common Age and in partnership with the Fulbright Specialist Program, came up with the idea that there's a need to train and capacitate the elder care workforce, because we need to have that many people either in the workforce or in the family who are able to understand what dementia is and who are able to provide quality care. In some communities in Africa, there is such a misunderstanding or lack of understanding about what dementia is all about, what the symptoms are. And sadly, research has shown that in some communities, people who live with dementia are considered witches and are actually treated very badly, to the extent that some of them are actually killed, because the symptoms that they display are seen to be something that's aligned to witchcraft or that's harmful to the communities. So there is a great need for awareness, which is happening on many levels, but the Train the Trainer program was developed to be able to capacitate the workforce in Africa. So it was opened out to other countries in Africa. We had Botswana and Kenya and South African members of the workforce. So we had social workers, occupational therapists, researchers, residential center administrators, nurses who attended the training. Fulbright made it possible for a specialist in gerontology from the US to come through to South Africa, and an intense 9-day program was undertaken with 28 delegates from 3 African countries. The outcome of this Train the Trainer program is that all those delegates that attended the training are going to go back into their communities and train others that they are working with to understand so that we don't have all the myths around dementia, to understand what it's really all about and how they can actually provide a better quality of care. And the great thing about it is that it was collaboration between civil society and government. So government officials also attended the training and are able to then take it deeper into the communities.
Thank you so much, Mansoor.
Good morning. Good morning. Friends, you just heard astounding numbers about the rise and unfortunate rise of dementia. Have a heart for India. We are 140 million seniors, one country. And dementia is a galloping situation that's happening worldwide. And as Carmel really said, and also voiced by Jacqueline and Dee, at Common Age, we understand the situation, and that's why the rollout of the report. Within that context, having different aspects of how do we break this as a roadmap, as a plan on how do we tackle dementia worldwide, one of the aspects, again, as was touched upon, was workforce. To address the workforce issue, we came up with this plan of Train the Trainer program, as Carmel explained in detail. Also, I'm a part of a coalition of peak associations globally, where we are working on the ethical aspects of workforce migration. So I have come up with this acronym, and please indulge me. It's elder care. E is educate, L, learn, D, demonstrate, E, earn, and R, return. And I explained to you very briefly. E, educate. Let's educate the people and the workforce and everybody. Let's, as Kamal said, be doing Train the Trainer program. Learn. Use that training, the working that we have educated their workers, for the host country. Remember one thing, friends, there are, in this dynamics of the world, there are countries that provide the workforce, there are countries that receive the workforce. Now, in that process, if the country that provides the workforce is left hanging by the workers going away, you have a problem, don't you? And who are we to control the aspirations of the youth? You cannot control the aspirations of the youth. They want to go and earn a better life, and so they have to go. But if we can have a program where they learn, which means they intern in their home countries, so they spend at least 1 or 2 years interning in their countries. So that's the L part of it. D, demonstrate. So whatever you have educated and learned, please demonstrate, so that the receiving country, whose care you're about to go to give, is satisfied that you are up to it, and they don't waste time when they reach there. Now remember that X has already given some time to the home country, demonstrating the readiness to serve in a receiving country. So he goes to earn the E of the elder. And then, because of government interventions about visas and permits and so forth, and with the agreement with the receiving countries association or the community, they return. So they return back to the host countries and give back to the host country, to their origin country, what they have learned, they have already earned. Remember, the families have earned. They have now, they have the disparity between currencies that is prevailing everywhere across the globe is taken advantage of, and then they return back to their country to serve their own country, maybe in a better position with a more career path. So that's the program that we are working on at the moment, elder care, and that's something which, the acronym that I've pushed across. And that would perhaps help the situation that we are facing about the workforce. Hinging on this same subject of workforce is we need to leapfrog very quickly into technology and use AI to take care of, certain therapeutic solace. Remember, friends, there is no direct cure, you know that. For Alzheimer's, there is no direct medical cure for Alzheimer's, it's only therapeutic solace. So there is an opportunity for us at this point of time to leapfrog and use technology and AI to take care of the therapeutic solace for Alzheimer's, reducing the burden of the caregiver. Linda mentioned that we all are, in some way or the other, Alzheimer has hit home. For me, it has hit home in case of my mother, father, and my grandmother. And we are the principal caregivers. And on learnings of that, I have written an article in the report, and please do read the report by scanning the QR code, which mentions how under reminiscence therapy for Alzheimer's, there is an app that I am personally creating on a mobile tech app for therapeutic solace under reminiscence therapy for Alzheimer's. So there are methods now, and it's coming out very fast. It's growing extremely fast. The use of AI in Alzheimer care is growing very fast. I was just recently in San Francisco last week, and I met a couple of startups who are doing just that, embedding technology, AI, ChatGPT for Alzheimer care. It's happening. It's happening as we speak. So all these are pushes in different directions to see and how we can tackle what we feel, what I feel is a tsunami that's going to come. Linda?
Thank you so much. Before I go to questions, thank you everybody for sharing your insights. Guys, could you put up the QR code slide and the report slide so that if people are able to get that? Max? The second slide, which will give, if people don't have a postcard. I know there are some questions from people in the audience that have spoken to us, and I'm going to open it up to questions. I do have one question I'd like to ask, and I'd also like to acknowledge Dame Professor Carol Black, who's in the audience, who wrote the foreword for the report, and we're delighted that she is with us as the Secretary General's Special Envoy for Healthy Aging, and the intersectionality with regards to dementia and healthy aging cannot be underestimated, and we're delighted with your appointment, and we look forward to working with you, Dame Carol. I'd like to ask Richard a question, but I'd like to preface it for a second. Emily Ong, who's an advocate with regards to dementia and who features very heavily in the printed copy of the report, spoke about the fact that it's so important for us to act and to advocate with regards to where we need to go. A direct quote from her and from the actual report is, "A world in which dementia is reduced and people live with dementia and their carers live well and receive the care and support they need to fulfill their potential with dignity, respect, autonomy, and equality." That is what is important. And she said, this is now the reason and a call to action and the time to act. Richard, from your experience and in our brief conversation yesterday, we were talking, and you shared the intersectionality with regards to dementia and disability, and Jacqueline's already talked about the fact that this is a silent disability. What are some of the lessons that we can learn with regards to advocating and achieving what Emily has asked for with regards to dementia across the Commonwealth? And what are some of the pitfalls that we should avoid? You've got 2 minutes.
On?
Yes, you're on.
Thank you. Yeah, from the point of view of the disabled people's movement, most of the things that you've talked about are things that are familiar to us, that we've been fighting for decades. We do have an international human rights treaty, the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, which covers everybody with dementia. So you're already all disabled people as soon as you're diagnosed with dementia. And I would suggest that rather than dealing with it as a single issue, you should find common cause with all of us who are fighting for equal rights for disabled people. Perhaps the reason why there's so much shock from people who get dementia is that they were not part of the disabled population before. And therefore, all the stigma and the prejudice towards difference comes into the person in terms of valuing their self-worth, a process that those of us who've had impairments since birth or developed earlier on have had to go through. But there's no common cause with that. We've been fighting hard in the Commonwealth for that to be taken up. They're not interested. An example, 5 of the disabled people at the Women's Conference yesterday were left out of the photo. Why? Because they hadn't thought about people with mobility aids being in the photo. This is just not acceptable from the Commonwealth to behave in this way. You know, that 55 of our 56 member countries have signed the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, but the Secretariat don't think it applies to them. Of course it applies to them. So there is really a big shift that has to take place in the Commonwealth to include your campaigns, but all of our campaigns. So how is dementia so different to people who have stroke, which comes with age, or Parkinson's, as a whole range of impairments, maybe hundreds, which affect people as they get older? We know around the world that by the time you're 80, 80% of people are disabled. I'll say that again. By the time you're 80, 80% of people are disabled. Right? So this is linked to age, because obviously our mechanisms deteriorate, and there are very few people who are going to survive to 100 without some sort of significant impairment. Most people deal with it. Deafness is very much something to do with age. What I would suggest is that we need to find some common cause. We need to recognise that the UN and the world has recognised that disability is a part of life, it's not something separate, and we therefore need to include it in everything we're doing, making adjustments and so on. Be happy to enter into much more dialogue with you, but I would suggest those might be some starting points. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. That's very helpful. Dame Carol, would you like to make a comment? As somebody who wrote the foreword for our report, it would be lovely to...
I just really want to echo what Richard has just said. This is part of being disabled. And the sooner we all get together to see it as a single thing that you maybe are going to push for, I think there's value in numbers, if you like, in being together to do this. Because often I looked after a rare disease in my professional life. It's very hard, if you're a smaller voice, to get things to happen. You are much stronger the more people you have together. I know from all the work I've done for the UK government on enabling people to stay in work, that, for example, disabled people are wonderful in work if you make it possible for them to be there.
Yes.
We know that. So we need to take that same sort of approach to dementia. People are frightened of it, if you think about it. It's like we used to all be very frightened of cancer.
Yes.
So you didn't talk about it. You shoved it under the carpet. Then came mental health. So we did the same to mental health. And at the moment, we do the same to dementia. And so our ability to speak about it, to normalize it, to do preventive things early. And I do commend you on your report. But I think it's now important to link that up and, if you like, fight the good fight. I just heard what you said about the Commonwealth Secretariat. I will do my best to take that message back for you.
Thank you so much, Dame Carol. To each of the panels, one quick question. What do we need to do in time with regards to the time to act? Because I know that we have to wrap up. Carmel, what's one thing you want the Commonwealth and the policymakers to take on board?
I think there needs to be a lot more awareness created about the impact of dementia. And like we are doing a lot of work in terms of capacitating people, we just need to maximize that so that at the end of the day, the care that's going to be needed in the future is going to be available.
Thank you. Dee?
Yes, I think in the same way that we say, governments like to say government can't do it alone, and which we endorse as a true statement. But in that same light, civil society has carried the burden, of handling dementia for decades. Civil society cannot do it alone. So we need government to come on board and to, make it a public health priority, and that will set mechanisms in place to get the attention and the sort of redress that we need.
Jacqueline?
For me, for me, having been a carer and having 2 girls and going to have a grandchild, I would look at it this way. Prevention is better than cure. We can't wait for the governments. We ourselves in the community have to help ourselves. Yeah? So prevention is better than cure is key. Okay, so we have to live a healthy lifestyle. 2, I would like to say equality, but that is a long time coming as well. So I'd like to say empowerment. Empower the people, empower the carers to be able to care, so that we ourselves and the people can also do train the trainer, help you train your people to be able to understand, to be able to take care better, okay, whilst the government figure out their national plan or strategy. And third, it is something that the government need to look into as well, which is the care and the silver economy. People are aging, and when they age, they may have dementia. Okay, so this is something that where in low-income countries, families take care of families. But in higher income countries, the tendency is that you're aging, you have a care, residential home or whatever, put them in there. Okay, and even if in there, like what Mansour mentioned, you need a workforce that is trained to care for them as well. Yeah? So these are my 3 takeaways I think are important.
Thank you. Mansour?
I would like the Commonwealth Foundation, the Secretariat, to recognize that there are countries which are providing the workforce and there are countries that are receiving the workforce. And how can the foundation help its member states to formulate a migratory policy which will allow workforce to work from a providing country to a host country with the concept of returning back. So unless the government comes up with a migratory policy for workforce specifically for this sector with parameters in place, with markers in place about timelines and other ethical standards, we will not be able to tackle this problem effectively. That is where I would like the Commonwealth Foundation to help us prepare that policy. Thank you.
And in conclusion, mine would be that I would like to see us work for an all-age inclusive and age-friendly, which will link with our colleagues with regards to disability, so that we have the access into various facilities so that we actually destigmatize dementia. And we see as well that by having age-friendly environments, that we actually are encouraging people to continue to live the lives that they want. Can I encourage you, please, to read the report, scan the QR code. It is really, there's postcards on the seats, there's QR code on the screen, and a copy to the report. It's freely available on the website. Please hashtag Dementia in the Commonwealth. Let's get this on the agenda for the health ministers as well as the foreign ministers, and in the communique with regards to action. This is a collective responsibility, and we look forward to partnering with colleagues and with others to make this a lived reality that is a better future, as Emily has said in her report. Thank you so much for attending our session, and look forward to seeing you over the rest of the day. And if you have any other questions, please look out for us. We're all wearing our pins, and we look forward to talking with you.